Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. AJ Vaden here. Super excited to have this conversation today. One, because I know Zach and I believe this is going to be of immense value to everyone. But two, I'm also super excited because I shared this with him before I hit record. I'm so selfishly invested in learning this information that this to me is like, I'm just over here with like a girl on the first day of school with her pen and notebook ready to take notes. And so should you. As I always do, here's who this podcast is for, and this is why you should stick around. If you would like to know how to test an offer before you invest time, money, energy, and resources into it, this is the episode for you, right? If you want to know how to sell high ticket offers, could be coaching, consulting, masterminds, communities, without taking one-on-one sales calls or building a huge sales team, this is the episode for you. If you want to know if you should be hosting paid events versus free events, this is the episode for you. And if you want to know what the biggest mistakes are with hosting live events today, then this is an episode you do not want to miss. So let's get right into it. Let me introduce you to the one, to the only, Zach Hesterberg. He is the founder of Paid Events, helping high-ticket coaches, consultants, and course creators scale through paid virtual events. With nearly a decade in marketing, Zach has helped generate 6- and 7-figure paydays while selling over 15,000 event tickets. Y'all, that's awesome. Unlike traditional funnels that rely on unreliable sales teams, his paid event method attracts high net worth premium clients, increases conversions, and creates predictable revenue without burnout. Who doesn't want that? Zach, welcome to the show.
AJ, I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. By the way, fantastic intro. You are a fantastic podcaster.
Well, if all else fails, I could always go into emceeing.
That's fair. That's fair. I've always said if I had a secondary life, I'd always want to be like a radio DJ or an MC. Yeah. So I'm right there with you.
That's never too late. Never too late.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just to help our audience get to know you a little bit, I'd love to just start with, how'd you get into this?
Yeah. So paid events specifically, that came probably 2020. I already had a marketing agency, been doing that since 2015, started in college, just kind of working with some local businesses. And 2020 came around and I was working with a couple clients, more so just optimizing their sales process. People were coming into us for help with Facebook ads. Mm-hmm. And I was finding that Facebook ads, like you could send traffic into anyone's website or into anyone's sales process. But if the sales process is inefficient, they're not going to make money. And so, or they're at least not going to be happy with the profits. And so I had a client, his name is Jai Long. He's from Australia. He coaches wedding photographers how to build up their wedding photography business. And he'd hired me because he was hosting a virtual event. It was called the Wedding Photography Summit. And he reached out. He said, hey, I know that you do a lot of stuff with sales processes. I'm selling $7 tickets for this upcoming summit. Having a hard time scaling up ads. And I also have some like order bumps and one-click upsells that have a really low take rate on. Could you help me out with that? I said, yeah, no problem. So for the next 8 weeks, helped them scale up ad spend. Got the cost per ticket sold, like the CPA down pretty low. Got the order bumps swapped out, and it started working really well. We sold over 8,000 tickets. That was my first ever virtual event.
Wow.
And a week before the event, well, actually, it was the week of the event. It was our last call of our consulting engagement. I said, so Jai, what are you going to pitch during your event? And he said, I wasn't planning on pitching anything. What do you mean? Like I'm hosting a paid event. Like I don't want to pitch anything. Like these people have paid to be here. I said, brother, do you hate money? I was like, you've got 8,000 of your best customers coming to you to learn how to build up their business. You have a coaching program for $2,000. You should at least offer that. Because an event is only a catalyst to get someone transformation after the event's over. Like there's so many people that will go to a live event, whether it's in person or virtual, They get all hyped up. They're excited. And 2 days, 5 days, few weeks after the event's over, yeah, nothing. Yeah, you've not taken action on anything. And typically that's because there was not a real transformation that occurred during the event. You got excited, you got into a great emotional state, but there was no action that was taken to hold you accountable to seeing that transformation through after the event was over. So that's what I pretty much told him. And he was like, all right, well, cool. I'll give a quick pitch. And he made another $250,000 in the last second. And yeah, that's how I got started with it. And so I've taken on quite a bit more.
That's a good entry into the business, Zach.
Yeah.
Good first go at it.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like you've been in the marketing world for a really long time and then really kind of like honed it into this paid event space in the last, 6 years. And so you mentioned something to me before we started that I kind of find most fascinating. One, because it's our current sales model. And so we have asked ourselves the question of how do we continue to scale without constantly having to add more humans to our team? And it's not like we don't love our team.
Sure.
We love our team so much that we want to give them all of our love. We don't want to add anymore.
Yep.
And you said, I believe that there's a new path to selling high ticket offers without a one-on-one sales call, right? The sales call funnel.
Yep.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick, this actually can be supported with what I'm about to say from the Bible. And I'm not going to push Christianity down anyone's throat today or anything. Lord willing, you're a believer, but if not, no big deal. You're still going to get value from this analogy. I was looking in the Bible not too long ago and was analyzing, how did Jesus start his ministry? Was he meeting with people one-on-one? Was he going door to door and having one-on-one appointments with every single potential follower of Christianity? No, not at all. He had a limited time. He understood the essence of time and how important it was, and he had to be really efficient. And so if you look at the feeding of the 5,000, the Bible says there were 5,000 men there that he spoke to that day, not including women and children. Most theologians would say there were probably 11 to 12,000 people in that crowd that day. And if you do the math and you say, well, if he was working 8 hours a day and he had 1 hour appointments with people, eight appointments per day, nonstop, back to back to back, 100% show rate, and not taking any breaks, it would take him about 5 years and 3 months to have met with that many people. But he just did it in one afternoon. And it's not that it's actually not impersonal to do that. It's actually almost better because he's doing a disservice if he has to have people meeting with him one-on-one. People want to hear from him. They don't have to have a one-on-one with him. And so anyway, I was like, man, yeah, he used events to be able to start his ministry, and even his disciples, because some people would say, well, he had a disciples, so that's his sales team. No. Most of his disciples were also doing sermons. It's a far more efficient way to spread a message. And of course, you're not going to have 100% conversion, but you could still have somewhere between a 10 to a 20% conversion pretty consistently when you're speaking to a group of people all at the same time and kind of pitching in a one-to-many fashion. So that's my inspiration behind some of this.
Love that.
Yeah, happy to dive more into it. Obviously, there are sales strategies that you have to deploy, and you have to make sure that you're pre-handling objections and pre-framing people for the right reasons. But yeah, you could absolutely scale. We've seen the virtual events that we've hosted. We've seen them successfully sell anything from as low as $1,000 offers as high as $30,000 offers, directly from virtual events where people are paying $7 for, $9 for, really cheap. So it's a loss leader model. You don't make money on the front end typically. You'll lose money after the cost of acquisition, but you make all of your money in that back end sale.
So this is so fascinating. So I would be curious to hear from you. Why do you think that these sales call funnels, like the call booking funnels, why do you think they're becoming a little less effective as time goes on?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. Maybe threefold. In general, the reason I said twofold is because people are more sophisticated than ever before, and they're also more skeptical than ever before. So sophistication is you're probably not the only person telling this person that you can help them. There are plenty of other people that are making the exact same claims, and they can go do whatever research they want. There's more information than we need online. And so they don't need to have these one-on-one sales conversations that they ultimately know they're just going to get pitched to in some way, shape, or form. Like they know it's typically not going to be a super high value sales call. And so there's that. And then also the skepticism. It's like a lot of people have been burnt, especially in the high ticket space. People have made some investments that really weren't the best fit for them, or maybe they didn't get taken well care of. And so, the skepticism and the sophistication, it's like, it's just really hard to sell to. And in the past, when those were both lower, you can easily have a quick 60-second ad that someone watches on Instagram. They watch it. They're like, oh, yeah, this is interesting. Then they click it. They opt in. They watch a quick 20-minute VSL or maybe a 90-minute webinar. They're like, cool, yeah, I'm sold. I want to book a call. They book a quick hour-long sales call, and they're going to buy. No problem. But it's just not happening at the rate that people would like to see at this point. And so I would say that lead generation is easy. It's really easy to get a lead or someone interested in working with you. But the conversion part is much harder. And that's because most people skip the in-between step, which is the lead nurture. And so I'm finding that, and this is just my kind of hypothesis, a virtual event or in-person event, doesn't really matter, is one of the most efficient ways to nurture a prospect and truly gain that know, like, and trust factor that they truly need before they're ready to invest with you at a higher rate.
So I have a question for you. You mentioned like $7 to $9. Why so cheap? Like, why not $20? Why not $50?
Yeah, great question. Great question. I haven't seen a whole lot of data on the $20 to $50 range. I've tested out a good few on like the $97 to $297 offers, and people still use those. And so I'm not going to sit here and say like one is better than the other. The only reason we've done $7 to $9, and actually here in about 3 weeks, we'll be hosting our own event. We're actually going to we have the hypothesis that we think $1 will still work. So we're going to do $1 ticket because I think there's just something powerful in the 16 digits being exchanged of the credit card number. But yeah, the $7 to $9 came up from, honestly, that first client, Jai. He was already selling it for $7. And then the very next week, I had a client. Her name was Christian Boss. And she said, hey, I'm curious about hosting this upcoming 3-day virtual event. I was going to make it free. What are your thoughts? I'm like, I have another client we just sold 8,000 tickets for $7. Like, do you want to do that? And she did it. And a month later, she had 3,500 tickets sold at a $7 price range, and she made $250,000 from that as well. And I was like, yeah, maybe there's something to it. And so my hypothesis, like I've tested out once again other price ranges, but my hypothesis is that the lower the price range, or the lower the price for the ticket, the easier it is to make that quick impulse purchase. Sure. And we're not in it for profit on the front end. We're in it for buy-in. And there's a significant difference from a free event versus a paid event of any sort on the show rate as well as the back-end conversion rate, because these people are...
You've got to have some skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. The 7 to 9, I'm open to being proven wrong. Like, our motto is we don't care to be right. We just want to make money. So that's why we're going to try the $1 tickets. And then we've tried some $27 and $47 events, but the sales page conversion rate quite literally just has not been as desirable as we'd prefer. And at the end of the day, we want that cost of acquisition as low as possible.
So that leads me to another question then. So clearly you're not doing it for profit. Are you trying to do it for break even, or are you fully prepared to take a loss?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fully prepared to take a loss. So I've got a client that they spent, like, literally right now, they're spending about $30,000 per day leading up to their upcoming event. They'll usually spend about $300,000 over the course of about 10 days. And they will, they're selling $7 tickets, but their cost of acquisition can be as high as $140, which is not lovely on a $7 ticket. They're losing a lot of money. They're losing almost all of that money. But they know with predictability that they obviously started off with a smaller budget, but they know with predictability that every single time they do these events, they do them about once a month, they will make at least 3x in cash collected on the back end.
On the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, literally on the spot. So they're like, okay, well, we can float that cash. So yeah, you can absolutely try to break even. You can add in some order bumps, some one-click upsells. But most of the clients that we work with, they're busy. Like, they're usually multiple 7 figures, oftentimes in the 8-figure range. They don't want to have to come up with new products to sell just for a funnel. Like, they're like, at the end of the day, they only care about the back end profit. So as long as you have the cash to float, great, do that. But if you're really cash strapped, you could of course add in some extra one-click upsells, and you could try to increase the average order value.
So then it's okay. So walking through this process for anyone who's listening, who, okay, if I had a little money to put some, money into some ads, had this low ticket offering. What are you seeing is the most successful formula for the event itself? Is it a full day? You mentioned 3 days. Is it a half day?
Yeah, great question. So it does depend on your market a little bit. For example, myself, if AJ, I would imagine you personally, there's no way I'm going to get you to commit to a 5-day virtual event for a couple dollars. You're not attending that because you're too sophisticated and way too busy. Your value of time is too high. So the max that I can maybe get your attention for, if it's a sweet enough offer, is maybe 2 days, 1 hour, like 1 hour per day. That's about the max of your attention I could potentially earn, as long as the offer was right. But if you're selling maybe a $30,000 offer to your average 9 to 5 consumer, you're probably going to need a few more than 2 total hours over the course of 2 days. So in those cases, we'll stretch it out to about 5 days. But in general, we usually opt in for a multiple day event. The reason why is honestly just because if you can deliver a really powerful shift on perspective or in their mindset on day one, they're sitting in that for another 24 hours before they get to hear from you again. And then they're now eagerly waiting for day 2 because as long as you kind of create some nice open loops that don't totally get closed on day 1, now they're super excited for day 2, and you're taking up their brain space and their mental bandwidth over the next 24 hours, and that's only a 2-day event. If you want to do a 3-day event, great. Now you're kind of taking up mental bandwidth for about 72 hours of time, and they're getting to spend, in their mind, they're getting to spend multiple days with you. But really, it might only be an hour or 2 per day. So really, it's not much different than a quick little 2-hour session or a 3-hour session. But if you could break that up into multiple days, there's in my opinion, a pretty strong correlation on the experience that the customer is having.
So that's so interesting. So you find that it's better to have shorter sessions over multiple days than having it all together on like a half day, full day.
Yep. Yeah. I guess my rationale behind this, and once again, I could be wrong on this, but just my rationale is that the bite-size information is easier to digest
For sure.
as compared to making someone absolutely just drink through the fire hose.
Yeah, and then their brain is so full they can't think.
Yeah, because if their brain is too full that they can't think and they feel like they've just drank from the fire hose for 4 hours straight, the last thing they want to do is now go buy a multiple $1,000 offer that you're pitching them because they feel like they just got so much information. They need to take action on that before they invest in your offer, because that would almost be poor stewardship of the information they just got. So give them bite-sized, digestible information, and still, like, I would say more so radically change the way they look at whatever the area of life is that you're helping them, whether it's business or marketing or health or finance, or whatever. Like, help them out with some mindset shifts. Don't teach too much of the hows. And it's not manipulative. It's just like, if you teach too much of the hows, they will then feel like they have to go implement all of that. And we all know, going back to what I just said earlier, if they are so focused on the how and they're focused on implementing all of that, now they're not going to actually buy. And if they don't buy, now they're not actually going to get that transformation and the accountability after the event's over. And that's what it's there for. Like, going back to Jesus, it's like he wasn't expecting your entire life to be changed over the course of that sermon. The sermon was there to change how you thought.
It's the catalyst.
It's the catalyst. And then the true transformation is after the event's over.
Fascinating. And so next question I'd have is for the person listening. And I think this is a really, a big deal because, first of all, you got to have, if you're listening, you got to have some money, right, to put into paid traffic. So Zach, if they don't have any money, could this model still work with just trying to drive it organically? Have you seen that work?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have kind of 4 core ways that will drive traffic to any event, whether you have a big budget or not. Obviously, yes, ads are probably the most scalable. However, you can also leverage your email list or SMS list if you have those. If not, no big deal. I'm sure you have a few emails you can still send invites to. But then you can also leverage your organic traffic. Obviously, go post on some social media. Go let your word of mouth network know. And then lastly, any JVs or affiliates. I say JVs or affiliates because I do look at those as 2 separate relationships. JVs would be someone that you're expecting they're more so going to go, do a full-on promotion to their email list, and there's going to be probably a back-end rev share involved. And so they're financially incentivized for a different reason. We have seen a fun little hack, I guess you could call it, on the thank you page.
Sick.
There's some extra real estate you could use after someone buys a ticket. On the thank you page, instead of just saying, cool, here's your receipt, see you there, or check your emails for more information, you could put a video on that thank you page, and you can now actually leverage that as a way to get some new traffic immediately. We've seen this done in two ways. Number one, we've seen it done where that video is actually inviting them. You could have a form directly below that to sign up to be an affiliate.
Yeah.
And you could get an affiliate code, and immediately you could actually start making money. You could maybe give them 100% of ticket sales, 100% of the proceeds of the ticket sales that they generate before the event starts. They can potentially even have a little bit of an ROI before they even get to your event. That's kind of fun. But the other way is just simply leveraging the power of relationships and reminding them of, hey, look, congratulations on taking this investment, getting your ticket. I just want to be really clear. We've all been to events where nothing changes after the event's over. Like, you're really excited, but then you go back to your network and you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if the people around you aren't also getting the same level of information, you're probably going to go back to their level of thinking. So if you really want to make sure that you have an incredible way to, just a more leveraged way of seeing results after this event is over, get your network here. You know, whether it's a couple business partners or a couple friends or family members, depending on your offer, send them a link, get them to go buy a ticket, and that way you guys can join in on this together and even, kind of network and talk about the ways that this can be applying to your life. And we'll see that you could get some extra organic traffic directly from that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that thank you page, because that could work not just for this event, but for any thank you page you have. Immediately turn it into a referral source, an affiliate, referral partner relationship. So I love that. Now, okay, so let's just pretend that everyone who's listening is like, great, got it. I'm going to create an event, going to host it a couple of hours for a couple of days.
Yep.
I'm going to rather put some money into it or share it organically, but I want to get some humans to show up, right? So here's my next question. Mm-hmm. What would you say are the biggest wins that you see people making when they're hosting the live events? But then also, what are some of the biggest mistakes? So what should people be thinking to do and not to do as they're hosting these paid events?
Okay. Just want to make sure that we're super on the same page. You're talking about the in-event experience, or are you talking about leading up to the event?
No, like the in-event experience.
Yeah. Okay. In-event experience. I think your first question was, what's some of the biggest wins or like things that they're doing well?
Yeah. What should we be doing?
Yes.
And then what could people stay away from? Like biggest mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be what I tell you to do is also the opposite of it is the mistake. So in general, pre-framing, I think this is going to be the biggest win/mistake you could make. When you start your event, let's address the elephant in the room. There are two people that will be at your event, two types of people. Person number one, they have been to events and webinars before, and they know there's a pitch coming, and they can't trust you until they know what your pitch is. And so they have their guard up, and they're actually not going to be able to see much of a transformation or get any value from like the thought shifts or like the ways that you're trying to help them out with their mindset during it, because they're so focused on what are they going to pitch and what's this person just trying to sell me. They're skeptical.
What's this leading up to? When's it coming? Yeah.
Yep. And then the second type of person.
I'm always like that at the events. I'm like, when's it coming? What is it? Hurry up.
Yep. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And then the second type of person, they're there genuinely thinking that their life is about to be entirely changed over the next 2 hours, whether it's 1 hour per day or whatever. And you can address both of these people in the same statement. You open up and say something along the lines of, hey guys, I am so excited that you're all here today. Guys, as promised, we are going to teach A, B, and C over the next few days, whether it's today or over the next 2 days or 3 days, whatever. It's going to be extremely powerful. There's going to be a lot of shifts in thought that you might have never had before. There's going to be a lot of just kind of knowledge bombs that are getting dropped. Like, make sure you're ready to take notes. But I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with something. We've all been to events, and we got some, value, and it was exciting, and then you left and nothing else happened. And so to make sure that I'm not just leaving you hanging, just to call it what it is, I'm going to give you an offer at the end of this event. I'm not going to sit here and try to say it's not going to be a bait and switch. I'm actually going to give legitimate value. You guys paid to be here. Unlike a webinar, you have paid to be here. And so I will be giving some of very legitimate value. And hey, some of you guys are do-it-yourselfers. You're going to get the value from the next couple days, and you're going to be good to go. You're going to be off to the races. You do not need to work with us. Fantastic. I'm so excited you're here. The others of you, you know that you'd much rather have someone holding your hand or some sort of support after this event is over because you're genuinely serious about seeing a transformation in this area of your life. Guys, I'm not just going to leave you hanging. I will absolutely give you an offer if you'd like to continue working with us. I can tell you more about that on the last day. No big deal, though, right now. I just want to let you know there will be an offer. So I hope that doesn't offend you all. Feel free if you I'll even give you a heads up before I give the offer on the last day. If you guys would like to get out of the room, if that would offend you, you guys can go ahead and leave. I don't want to pitch anyone that doesn't want to hear our offer. Is that cool with everyone? And you could actually have everyone say, yep, sounds good. Everyone's guard just totally dropped. So that's one big thing that you could do. And then now they're not like surprised when you give them the pitch. I think a lot of people will try so hard to give this incredible amount of value on the front end during their event, and then they try to switch into the pitch, and people are like, oh, wait, I wasn't expecting that, or like there's just kind of an awkward gap. Oh, yeah. But if you open up like that,
I love you, to, oh, no, you're just selling me.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, but if you open up like that, whenever it comes time to do the pitch, it's like, also, I learned this specific from Russell Brunson in one of his 10X GrowthCon presentations. He gave an ask, and he said, is it cool if I take the next 15 minutes or so to tell you guys about a special offer I created for you all today? And so he actually had kind of a question saying, would you be willing to let me give the offer? And so if you open up with that whole thing that I just mentioned, and then when it comes time to actually give the pitch, you say, cool. As promised, I taught you guys everything I was going to teach you. Is it cool if I have the next 15 minutes of your attention to tell you about an offer that we have? And you actually wait for everyone to say yes, like drop in the comments yes or whatnot. Cool. Now they're literally giving you permission to give an offer and pitch them. So that's going to be helpful. And then lastly, I would say I could continue talking on this, but I don't want to ramble. Lastly, I would say keep engagement high. There's a lot of people that will focus so hard on just rambling as I'm doing right now. And they will continue to talk and talk and talk throughout the entire presentation for the entire, whether it's 1 day, 2 days, whatever. And they're not getting the audience to participate. It's got to be a two-way conversation. It's got to be mutual dialogue. And so whether you're dropping in polls in the chat or you're actually, having some people get hot seated in the middle of the whole thing, like get people to participate. You could even share, have people share wins or ahas after a certain session before you jump into the next session. And that way people are now jumping in and they're actually reminding everyone else in the room of what they just learned. And so when you do that, people are actually much more engaged. They're not just going to be jumping up on Facebook on a different tab of their computer and start scrolling because they see that they are engaged. They are a part of this event. They're not just watching someone teach.
Yeah, that's good. Now, in terms of the offer, you said that you've seen as low as $2,000, like with your first one, up to $30,000. Do you see that there is a sweet spot?
Yeah, probably like low end $5,000, higher end $15K. It's probably the sweet spot. Reason being, there's a few ways that you could pitch on the how to actually get the conversion. So you could pitch direct to checkout, my personal favorite. You could technically pitch to, jumping on a sales call. I don't like that because once again, that now puts man hours at the bottleneck of how many people you could serve. And then there's a third option that I've seen work pretty well, which is you could pitch a deposit and say, hey, this is exactly how much it is. You don't owe that right now. You actually owe X amount instead. I'll give a direct example. The client that I mentioned, they spend about $30K right now per day. They have a $6,000 offer. And their offer, they could go straight to checkout on this with no problem. But theirs is very specific to a type of individual and some financial criteria. It's kind of a credit-based offer, and that you have to have a certain amount of credit in order to be able to leverage what they help you with in the back end. And so to make sure that they're not taking on the wrong clients, they'll say, hey, look, our offer is $6K to you today. Normally it's 10, which is true. If you go book a sales call with their team, it's normally 10K. And they say it's $6K this week. However, you don't owe that today. It's on day 2. They say you don't owe that today. You'd actually only owe $500, and it's a totally refundable deposit. By putting $500 down today, we're going to do a bonus Q&A day tomorrow, answer all of your questions on whether or not this is truly the right fit for you or not, because not everyone is perfect for this strategy. And they'll tell you, like, on the pitch, like, here's who it's for, here's who it's for, here's who it's not for. But still, some people really want to make it work for themselves. And so they'll say, cool, pay your $500 today. Tomorrow we'll jump on, we'll answer everyone's questions. And they'll find that about 2/3 of the people that submit the deposit will end up completing the $5,500 payment within the next probably 24 hours or so. So you could do that as well. But yeah, the 5K to 15K is great because you don't have to leverage the sales teams at all. You could totally do it direct to checkout if you want. And also on the 5 to 15K, if it's lower than 5K, depending on your cost of acquisition on the front end, if you're relying on Facebook ads, I want you to have profit in here. Like, we're not in here just to make revenue. Sure, it's exciting to make $250,000 in 24 hours, but if you had to spend $250,000 to do it, you don't want no longer sexy. So make sure you have some profit in there, and it's helpful if you're at least charging 5K.
Yeah. So now this is so fascinating and so helpful. What do you think makes a good offer? Like, if you've been doing this for a while, I listen to it. I'm fascinated with offers. I sign up for all kinds of funnels because I just want to see how they work. I love listening, and some are really great and compelling, and others are like, I can't believe anyone is buying this right now. So what have you seen, in your opinion? What do you think makes a great offer?
Okay, so I want to make sure, I would imagine you're asking the general question, but just to make sure I'm not misunderstanding, are you asking about back-end high-ticket offers or the front-end offers for the events?
A high-ticket offer, yeah.
Great. Okay. In general, it's got to be, like, I would say categorized under a few different key transformations. So I'll give some examples of what works, and then I'll give some very direct examples of what does not work. So examples of what work: people want to make more money. They want to save time. They want health. Now, health can be broken down into two different subcategories. It could be they want to live longer, or they want to look better naked. Those are two. Those are, I mean, honestly, like those are two separate types of health, and not about looking better naked. It's just like, you go to the beach or you're prepping for your wedding or whatever. So there's health, and then there's also, like, I guess there's relationships. Relationships is a tricky one. It could be a little hard to grasp on the value of that, but, like, technically speaking, masterminds are oftentimes relationship based. People buy into masterminds because they want the networking. There's also dating coaches or people like that. So there's that. And then also, if you could sell, like, anything that's investment related, that's it's going to be an appreciating asset, or there is a certain value to it that, it's like just a super high quality or super high service, like a high quality service or a high quality product. If you think, I'll give the best example. The best offers incorporate multiple of these all at the same time. So Rolex, for example, technically high ticket offer. You don't really think of it, though. It's not really a coaching space, but Rolex is a perfect example of a high ticket offer. They're charging 10 to, I don't know, 50,000, probably more than that for certain watches. And what they're selling, number one, it's a high quality product. You know that if you buy a Rolex, it's not breaking a month later. It's going to be around for decades and decades and decades. Also, high quality service. If you go on in, they're going to walk you back whenever you're picking up your Rolex from your AD. They're going to walk you back into a private room. They're going to do a special unboxing thing. They're going to give you some drinks while you're there. Like, it's a really nice, prestigious service. Additionally, it's an asset. You're buying a watch maybe for $10K that you can walk out. If you really needed to, you could walk out and probably resell it to someone else for $15 to $20K, depending on which one that you're buying. Additionally, they're selling ego. It's like they're hitting your ego. And then also they are selling you something that now levels up your ability to network and have new relationships. So, like, that's a perfect example of a fantastic high ticket offer because they're selling so many different benefits all at the same time. A bad offer would be something that is just hard to grasp. Like, I had a client not too long ago, incredible leadership consultant. He helps people with, seeing leadership breakthroughs within their organization. And when I say that, leadership breakthroughs, it's like, why would I buy that? Like, that's, I don't know, it sounds good, but I'm not ready to just go pay $20,000 for a leadership coach. I think I'm a fine leader. How do I know if I'm a bad leader? Like, you have to solve for specific pain points, such as like, hey, I'm going to help you get out of your day-to-day operations. Or I'm going to help you hire a COO that would be even more specific. I'll help you hire a COO to get you out of the day-to-day operations, or a CEO to get out of the day-to-day operations. Or I'm going to help you turn your team of task doers into business builders, and they're actually going to start focusing on revenue-driven activities. Or I'll help you deploy systems and SOPs so that everyone can leave the office at 5 p.m. rather than working until 9 or 10 p.m. Every day. So like, you have to get way more specific there. So you can't just say I'm a leadership coach. You actually have to say I help with X, Y, and Z. Kind of an esoteric, high-level conversation, but does that make sense, a few of those examples I'm giving?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think for a lot of people, this comes back to, do you know the benefits of your offer?
Yeah.
Right? This comes back to the fundamentals of what we do at Brand Builders Group with finding your brand DNA. It's like, what problem do you solve? Right? What's the cause of that problem? What's the unique way in which you solve it? That's your message. But then what are your payoffs? Like, what do you get as a benefit of solving this thing? Right? And I think that's a really important part for all of this, is making sure that as you guys are listening, it's like, what are the payoffs, right? What are the benefits? Those are the things that make a great offer. And you're the one that has to figure those out, so that you can attract the right people who would actually go, oh, I want that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's helpful. I love the way that you kind of reframed all of that. So it's really helpful to understand, the pain points that you're solving, because I'm sure most of the people listening to this have already heard this before, but there's only two core human motivators in life: running away from pain or running towards pleasure. And so if you can understand your audience's both of those, what specific pain points and symptoms are coming up in their life or in their business that they're trying to solve for, and what specific desires are they trying to achieve, and then going one step further, you had mentioned your kind of unique selling proposition, or your unique messaging, how exactly you help them do that. It really helps to go one step further and say, hey, here's why your other things haven't worked. You actually have to be able to point flaws, or like kind of poke holes at, if you know them well enough. Let's say you're a health coach and you help people, I don't know, lose the last 10 pounds of their little bit of belly fat. If you know that most of them are trying a certain solution and they're not getting a result, you should also talk about that as well. So it's like, hey, I know you have the belly fat, you're struggling to lose it. I know you want to have six packs, but here's what here's what you continue trying to do, which is X, Y, and Z. Here's why that's not working. And now you're setting yourself up for why your specific solution is working well, or why it can be the solve, like the true solution to their problem.
Yeah, I think that's so good. And that kind of comes back to one thing, and then I know that we're almost out of time, and I have one really big question that I want to hit before we do this. But before I get to that, it kind of comes back to a question that I meant to ask earlier, and I was just looking at my notes. It's like, do you find that for these, very low dollar paid events, that it is better to have a super niche, specific, targeted topic, kind of like what we were just talking about?
Yeah.
Or do you think it's better to, okay.
Yeah. Going broad is not the way to go. Get as specific as possible. And that's where people actually make a lot of mistakes, is that they'll try to make their event or any of their marketing in general so broad to be all-encompassing. But when you try to talk to everyone, you talk to no one. So make it really specific to solve a very specific problem.
Yes, our favorite, it's not our favorite. Maybe it's my favorite, but one of our sayings at Brand Builders Group is so cheesy, but you'll never forget it. It's the more specific, the more terrific. It's like, we're always going like, the more specific, the more terrific, right? And it's like, you got to know. And that also makes it a lot more successful with your paid campaign efforts as well. It's like, it's like dialing it in, get the right person so they convert, right? Which is what makes it all worth it. Okay, before we get to this last question, already learned so much, and I think there's so much here that's applicable, no matter if you're trying to, have some paid traffic put behind this, try to run it organically. But if you're one of those individuals who's like, it's not that I don't want to build a team, I don't have a team, right? I have to figure out something. I am the sales team. I think these are the great options, and why I wanted Zach to come on the show today. But he also has this awesome playbook called the Paid Events Playbook. And you can go to paidevents.com/playbook. And in that, it's going to cover a high-level overview of how to plan for your event, how to fill your event, and how to convert attendees at your event. Zach, is there anything I'm missing with that?
No, really. I mean, you covered the high level overview for sure. Yeah, it's more in depth than most people would think. And obviously, if you have any further questions, you could either go jump on ChatGPT and go find information, or if you want direct help, sure, you could reach out. But that is a really good overview of how to plan for your event, make sure it's actually going to sell and attract the right people, how to host it, keep people engaged, and then how to make sure, it's not really helpful to have 100 people there if no one buys in the end. So how to make sure you are getting those back-end conversions.
Yeah. So again, it's go to paidevents.com/playbook.
Yep.
Get it, read it, use it. All right. Now, before our time runs out, I have one last question that I think is universally applicable. And I mentioned this in the very beginning during my intro, that we said we were going to talk about how to test an offer before you invest into or invest too much time, money, or resources in it, to make sure that it's an offer that will work. So Zach, how do we do that?
Yeah. So this actually, I love how you asked this question right on the back end of the playbook idea, because these are congruent with each other. So I had the idea, this was pretty recent that we came across this. I said, we're going to be doing our own event in March. I want to make sure that I'm not investing. I'll probably put $40,000 or $50,000 into ads on this. And I was like, I want to make sure that it's the right event name and the event topic. And I had a few different ideas, and they were all kind of solving for different pain points and different core desires. I'm like, well, let's just test it out real quick in a quick ad campaign. And so I jumped on. There is a website called gamma.app, GAMMA.app. You could use it totally free, everybody. Jump on there, and you can make an account, and it's an AI, essentially presentation builder. And you can give a quick one-sentence prompt and say, give me a presentation give me a PDF that teaches X, Y, and Z. And so let's say that you're a health coach, and you're like, give me one that's like, lose 5 pounds before your wedding. And then another one that's like, how to gain 5 pounds of muscle in the next 6 months for bodybuilders, or whatever it's like. Maybe you have a few different ideas. Jump on there, create a PDF for all of them. And then we put together a quick Facebook lead form. In Facebook lead forms, you can instantly have a download be given to the person, like without even having to set it up with your CRM. And so we had we had the lead form for each PDF. We tested out a few different PDFs, and on the PDF, or I'm sorry, on the lead form, we were asking name, number, email. No, I'm sorry, not even number, just name and email, company name. And then we wanted to know not just what was going to get the lowest cost per lead, but what's going to be the highest quality lead. And so we had some custom qualifying questions in there. One of which I said, which of these describes you best? And that question changed depending on the lead magnet they were opting in for. Mm-hmm. And so like we actually ended up coming up with the Paid Event Profit Playbook, which is what you just mentioned. The Paid Event Profit Playbook, I was asking which has been your experience with events. And it was like, I've never hosted an event, trying to create my first one. Second one was I've hosted them, struggled to convert. And the third one is like, we crush events. We're just looking to scale. And then I also asked, where's your company revenue at? And I think that was it. And so I was asking the revenue question for all of our PDFs. And then I was asking a different kind of intention or sophistication level question for the other PDFs. And so what I did, I set it up for about $100 a day. And within 24 hours, I had very crystal clear data. One of the PDFs had 0 leads. Another one had cost per lead was like $60. And then the Paid Event Profit Playbook, that one was a cost per lead of like $7. And same audience. The ad itself looked identical from one ad to the next. It was just had I went on Canva, used the exact same template, and just changed out the headline for each one. So that way I was minimizing all variables except for the actual lead magnet. And then I was like, well, I don't care about the cost per lead. I want to make sure these people are actually qualified. And then I went through and was looking at all of their answers. I'm like, yeah, these people are perfectly qualified. And so I took that hypothesis and I said, let's test this out for a few other clients. So we just did this for one of our clients. He sells a mastermind to accredited investors, and he was having a hard time of what kind of angle was going to attract the right accredited investors. We just did that literally this week. And one of he was getting a cost per lead for around $15. And 75% of the people that submitted their information were accredited investors. And they specifically had a unique experience with real estate investing. We're like, okay, cool. That helps us out with the pain points and the desires. And anyway, you could do this literally. Go set it up for $300. Go come up with 2 to 3 PDFs. And you don't have to spend much more time than 2 or 3 minutes on the PDF. I beefed mine up a little bit, but yeah, do that. Then go set up a lead form. Ask some sort of questions for how qualified they are. I'd say like a financial qualification is probably helpful. And secondly, what's their sophistication level around what you're helping them with? And now you're going to have way more intel of like, clearly our lowest cost per lead is coming from this type of offer. And here's the majority of the leads. Here's their core desire, core pain point, and we actually know they're qualified. Great. Let's actually start putting some bandwidth into creating a more robust offer around that.
That's awesome. Love that. Gamma.app.
Yes.
Love it.
With Facebook lead forms.
What? AI saves the day.
It really does.
Sound, right? Love it. So good. Zach, if people just want to connect with you or follow you on social media, where should they find you?
Yeah, Instagram's good. Just my first and last name, Zach Hesterberg, or YouTube. We're starting to treat quite a bit more seriously, and YouTube, a lot of it's going to be biblical-based content talking about events and selling high ticket. So if you want long form, go to YouTube. Short form, go to Instagram.
And we'll put both of those handles in the show notes. Zach, so good. So many good insights. And I think also just a good reminder of like, hey, just because everyone around you is doing it this way doesn't mean there can't be another way. And I think this is a good reminder for all of us who's like, you don't have a sales team. You are the sales team, that there's other ways to still reach the masses and help scale your business without having to scale your team. So this was such a worthwhile conversation. And everyone who's listening, don't forget to stick around for my recap episode, which will be coming up next. And Zach, thank you for being here. Everyone else, we'll see you next time on The Influential Personal Brand.